So, good morning. It is still January 1st, and the doorbell just rang, and now I'm continuing part two of Thinking in the Round. Glenn Stockton was at the door. He's the appropriate person to be showing up at this point. We're collaborating on various projects. Anyway, he's working on those. I'm back at the recording studio here. Why Glenn is specifically important to Thinking in the Round, though, is because he's into something called the global matrix, by which he's meaning the hexapent, kind of in my jargon. You can think of how a globe can be made out of hexagons and pentagons, kind of like a soccer ball, but you can boost the number of hexagons beyond just the number in a soccer ball. This, my friend Stu Quimby came up with this toy. That's him in the picture. Stu and Carrie Kittner had a Design Science Toys. It's a very interesting company in terms of the toys they made. I worked with them for a while on Strange Attractors, which did not make it to the market, but I do have the shrink-wrapped box of it. I did the ray tracings and some of the, I did the instruction booklet pictures, not the writing, but the pictures. I did the writing for another toy, which was by Roger Gilbertson of Mondotronics. He came up with this idea of doing slotted um, plastic molds. I guess you could call them molds, far less high-tech than C60 by a long shot. And then I wrote the book for that, the booklet that it came with, about the buckyball, building the carbon-60 molecule, and so forth. So culturally, this kind of stuff has been in the wind for a long time. If you now look out on the web, you'll find that here in 2017, osmosis has done a lot of its work, and a lot of our sort of shop talk and jargon has spread. Peculiarly, though, the A, B, T, E, and S modules, that vocabulary has not gone very far, probably because that really is somewhat abstract geometry in the sense of pure sort of just math at first anyway, and the geodesic dome, on the other hand, had immediate applications as a dwelling. So people tuned into Synergetics because of its apparent practicality. I say apparent because on the face of it, right there in front of us, we could see dome homes. They were cool. And so that's where Fuller sort of became famous. But it's the modules that sort of anchor us in terms of a concentric hierarchy of polyhedra and their relative volumes. Now, as I was saying earlier, the 10F to the second power plus 2 is a subclass of a more general formula where you're thinking in terms of modulating a shape that then expands and contracts, kind of a duality there, a two-ness of multiplication, and then the plus 2 is the axial spin, the rotation of this system, as you would call it. So in thinking in the round, we're thinking in terms of data, like Google Earth shows various layers of data. You could put like information we've gleaned from surveying the different zip codes or something like that as to, the personalities of the people in a certain zip code or region. Like I live in the Asylum District here in Portland, named for, the first mental hospital in Portland was nearby. Dr. Hawthorne was one of its founders, subcontracted by the state of Oregon before they moved it to Salem, and that's where it became famous. Sorry, I'm off screen here. I'm picking up this book too. The 10F squared plus 2 formula gets mentioned here, and Donald Coxeter thought it was why Fuller deserves some recognition at least. Coxeter kind of had a problem with Fuller's, what to him looked like missionary zeal regarding why we should think more seriously about the tetrahedron as a unit of volume. For Fuller, that was a big picture fork in the road. We'd taken the cube route and maybe paid a price, that we didn't know about. And as he went on thinking about it, he just kept seeing a higher and higher price tag to making the cube be the king, and he wanted to shift our thinking in kind of a, you could say, radical way. And mathematicians aren't always known for being radical. Now, Coxeter did study under, for a while, Ludwig Wittgenstein, but didn't find this philosophy to be particularly his cup of tea. I think, though, that studying Wittgenstein does kind of loosen up your mind to where synergetics can find entree. Once you realize that meaning derives more from usage than from pointing to things, like words like frequency, you don't have to think of what do they mean in terms of what actual phenomenon are we talking about. You can weave it together in a system and get the meaning through the use, and I think that's what we have to do with synergetics. So another important, and this is my last sort of mathematical factoid to pour into this glue, is Descartes' deficit. You know that if you take a cube, for example, and sprinkle some the vertexes, if you sprinkle some degrees into those vertexes, which are 270 around each, let's see, what can we find here under Descartes' deficit? Let's just do a search. Will it come with pictures? Law of closure deficits, angular deficits, Descartes' total angular deficit. Let's go to Wolfram's Math World. That this would be 720 degrees in specific was interesting to Fuller, 2 pi as they say here, because that's the number of degrees in a tetrahedron. So the idea is that if you take a tetrahedron and subtract it, say, from a flat surface, that's going to cause the convexity that it needs to wrap around and connect to itself and become a sphere. Not a sphere, but a closed, topologically closed surface. Whereas if we add back those 720 degrees as they were taken from each of the vertices, it will open up again and flatten out. So with the cube, you've got like 270 degrees around each of the 8 vertices. So 8 times 90 degrees, what you would add back to flatten those is 720. And with a tetrahedron, you've got 360 degree angles coming in. So you just need to flatten those out by adding what? You got 180, so add 180 again to each of those. 4 times 180, 720 again. So we are in the realm of Descartes' deficit when we're talking about concave convex. So we've got n is to f is to e as 1 is to 2 is to 3 for omnitriangulated spheres. We've got v plus f equals e plus 2. We've got 2 times p times f to the second power plus 2. And let's see, Descartes' deficit. These are the kind of things that you would glue together in your mind if you're wanting to understand what synergetics is all about. And then comes the Gibbs phase rule, where we add to sort of the visual a sort of a tactile sense. Because the way to think of synergetics is sort of Bucky going around the world listening to people, and as they tell him whatever, he simultaneously sort of translates, or maybe later amalgamates kind of what he's learned in this consistent, sort of austere, somewhat stark language of synergetics. I mean, when you read it, it does look kind of cold. Like, where's the passion in this? But he mentions human emotions, it's psychological, so I do think of it as being about the full gamut of human experience and not just about, say, engineering a dome. It's not just an architecture manual or something like that, or something about CAD, computer-aided design, but it certainly helps. When you study synergetics, you will find your ability to think in the rounds and to think in a geometrically fluent way increases, I think. That's part of one of the side benefits of studying it. So there you have it, Descartes' deficit, Euler's law, NF to E is 1, 2, 3 on an omnitriangulated sphere, and 2 times P, which is 5 or whatever, times F to the second power plus 2. That's all very simple kind of math. It's not something that you have to get a PhD in math to understand. And synergetics is really, I would say, work in humanities. It's something that you can use as a entree or entry point into technology, into STEM, but you're coming from the philosophy side of things. You're coming from path. Do another video on STEM meets path sometimes. All right, talk to you later. Hope you have a good spring, summer almost.